Hi everyone and welcome back to another video. If this is your first video, hi, I'm Arlathia. So for this one we have my comic page Arlathia number 16. Yes, all the chicken scratch. So here is the pre-sketches, my version of sketching, in my chicken scratch. So here's where we are. So this one is the beginning of where we're actually gonna start getting more into the story and stuff. So for this one, this whole page is basically showing that Arlathia is getting away from Right, and she's meeting up with the other group on top. It's a I don't want to say a mountain. It's like a hill. It's kind of hard to describe because I don't show like everything, but they're on top of a hill, so that's where she's trying to get to. Essentially, those pages. So I'm starting to try and do more of like the action poses and get more into the action now, because the next page is actually where it really starts. I guess this is kind of like the prelude to the story is what the intention was. That's why I kind of dragged it out a little bit because I wanted to give a little bit of context about what was going on and wanted to like just jump into it. So that's what this is. But I think overall worked out fine. I think the colors turned out pretty nice in the end when you see it. But for this first panel you're watching, I kept it fairly simple because I didn't want to sit there and draw all those little details I give her. So I did it this way because that's what I've been doing. I actually kind of like this when they're farther away like this, just to give their like their biggest outline and color them like their main color, and then like just do the outlines of where their limbs are and stuff. I like it because it's simple, but it's like you can still tell what's going on. So I kind of enjoy that, and I do kind of put some shading in there. It's like very basic, just to still kind of give it some dimension, so it's not flat. But yes, Right is his normal full-on self because he is bigger, so it's easier to do like more details with him. But yeah, so whenever I do him like this, so I'm like, it just makes it easier just to make him very simple, but still give the movement of what's going on. So that's what I like doing. But I am gonna start working on more of the action poses too, because we're getting into that more, and it's like I need to make sure I'm a little better at that. Like I have one comic book art book with like action poses, and I'm gonna be getting another one here soon, which has a lot more poses. I think would be helpful for me, especially when it comes to perspective drawings and like foreshortening, because I'm terrible at that stuff. Because I'm actually working on the current comic page now, and I'm like, oh, I'm struggle busting right now because it's like I'm not used to it. So the art book for the comics I do have at the moment, I am trying to use what I can from what he has for foreshortening to see if I can somewhat use some of the limbs that he's got available to kind of help me. So that's what we're doing. But this one was still a little, I mean, sure, it's like a simple outline, but it was still kind of difficult because it's like I still need to make sure it all kind of made sense. So yeah, her arm was giving me some trouble. I was not doing so hot with the arm. So I had to erase it a couple times and like redo it. Yeah, as you can see, because I was not happy. I was like, this does not look good. But then I eventually kind of just stopped and I was like, okay, whatever, we'll just go with it. It's fine. It's not like it's the actual full on detail. It's just supposed to be the outline. Yeah, so you can kind of see here. I was like, okay, we're done. We're gonna move on with life because I'm like, I have other things to do. But so yeah, this is her just climbing up on Right because the last panel, so I think she jumps up because I don't remember. I think is what happened. Let me just double check so I know what I'm doing. No. Okay, so she hits him with the earth element. You can also go back and rewatch the video if you haven't seen it. But she hits him with the earth elements. Now she's coming up on top of him to get away from him because now he's falling down. Is what's going on. Because that kind of hurts. Because she got him on his nose, like his bridge, the nose bridge. I don't know, whatever that is. The snout. That's the word. So she's coming up to come up there. So now you can see it. So we skip to the next coloring. So this is all four of them together. My seasons readings over here, because that's what they are. You have, winter, spring, fall, and summer is what I call them. I actually had an old friend who came up with that because I didn't see that at first. She said that, and I was like, that is brilliant. So I've been using that because she told me I could. So I've been using it. So yeah, seasons reading is what this is. So yes, we have all four. So I kind of wanted to show them all like giving off different like expressions and like feelings right now. I didn't want to have them all doing the same thing. So Celestin here, who I'm coloring, he's kind of giving like a what the fuck look. Like, what do you mean we're in trouble? Because he's like, what did we do? Was what's going on with that? Arlathia is just pissed because they all came when they weren't supposed to, which will be explained in a few pages. So she's just upset. Kanan's trying to act like, oh, we're helping you out here. What's the problem? And Myra is just, yep, we're all good here. We're joining the party. So you'll see as they go, they also have their own. Like, the reason why they're also called Teas and Greetings and like the color they are is their personalities actually kind of match their colors. Because Celestin is the cool cat, winter's cool, it's chilly, that's kind of what he is. Arlathia is more like the mother, more mature one, so because I feel like spring is your first season of the year. Sure, it goes into winter, but it's like winter's on the back half of a previous year, so it kind of makes sense that spring kind of like the more mature one. She's actually the youngest of the group, but maturity wise, she's she's a more mature one. Kanan, fall, he's got a little more energy because if you think about like leaves are changing colors, the weather's changing, so it's like a little more energy going on. It's not just the flat. Amira is the hothead because it's summer, so it's like obviously that's what she's gonna take. But yeah, I also kind of made it match their colors a little bit to also match the seasons because I think Kanan actually works perfectly with his season colors because he's orange, yellow, and brown. So I think he's the most cohesive one of all of them. But I love black and green together, so Arlathia's gotta be black and green. Myra, she was the more difficult one to come up with colors because I was like, I don't really know what I want to do first. But I didn't want to give them all the same colors because there are 16 elements, so 16 colors, so I want to make sure they're all different colors. So I was like, also palette wise for cohesion, what she has makes sense to be like red, pink, and purple. Her and Celestin are both purple, but she has a darker purple, which is poison. Celestin has a lighter purple, which is gem. But so that's what that is. So also the sun's kind of like pointing like directly at them now. So I was trying to like do that. It didn't work out completely. Like I know some areas doesn't make sense, but I was trying to show that a little bit. But also, so Kanan's darker because he is behind Arlathia and Myra. So I was trying to do that too. So I wanted to show that. Celestin's kind of like off to the side. They're also at different heights. They're all the same height, but they're at different heights because it's top of the mountain. So I was like, that actually kind of works in my favor because they're all standing on like different parts, and a mountain's like jagged. It's not smooth. So it actually kind of makes sense to do that. But so that's what we got going on. But yeah, definitely like some parts don't make sense shadow wise, but I was trying to think. I was like, what am I gonna do? So I got a little bit carried away. But I was trying to think like where the shadow's gonna hit that still makes sense because I don't want them flat. But there's still gonna be something there because there's like muscle and bone, so it's gotta be something. So we still tried. But their elements. So Arlathia is an elemental, so she's all 16 of them. But the colors she has on her are the dark green is goo, then it goes to plant, which is the regular green. There's also another green, which is heal, that's a light green, but that's what Haven actually is. You can also go back and look at Haven too. He's on here, he was fighting with Wright a few pages earlier. So he is heal. And then she has water for blue, and then she's also got dark, which is black. So Myra is fire for the red. She's emotions with the pink, and then poison with the dark purple. Kanan is orange for metal. Lightning for the yellow, for the darker yellow, because there's two yellows, there's dark yellow, light yellow. So he's lightning for the dark, lightning slash thunder for dark yellow. There's also the light yellow for light, and he's also magic because he's light brown. There's also a darker brown, which is earth, but that's later on. You'll see that. And then Celestin is snow slash ice for the white. He is gem for the light purple, and then he's air slash wind for the gray. That's their colors. So I wanted to make sure there was like different elements involved with all of them. Where's the whole point? So that's what we did. But yeah, so you can see here, like I try to make Kanan darker because he is more in shadow because he's behind the two girls. So that's kind of what I wanted. So I think it kind of worked. Like it made a little sense to have him a tiny bit darker. Especially like if his body's behind Arlathia more, she's gonna have more of a shadow on him than anything else, So that's what I kind of figured, and that's what I was doing. So like, well, that kind of makes sense. So that's where we're at with that. Yay. Alright, now we're on to Arlathia. Yeah, this one took me a couple minutes to do, because they were quite time consuming. Because a lot of these I film in one sitting, because I don't want to like keep pausing and starting the video, because I don't edit. Really, like whatever you see is what you see. So I did this in one sitting. So this took me a few minutes. That's why I went down to only doing 3 colors too, because it was made a little bit quicker. And it helped them keep them slightly on the lighter side, so it wasn't so dark overall. Not that that entirely works, but you know, that's just the way it is. But, so yeah, so now we're gonna start seeing more of their personalities and like the things that they can do, because each one has a special power involved, which you'll eventually see. But Arlathia is obviously her quills. So a hedgehog has quills, and they're sharp as hell. Celestin has his speed because he's a greyhound. Not that you can tell that, but yes, he is a greyhound. Celestin's the cat, so I made him base him off of like a Siamese. But I did the cat because, you know, they're slender and they can kind of get into places they shouldn't. So that's kind of what I wanted him, and like also just good at jumping and like seeing it dark. So that's kind of what he is. And then Myra, she's a bat, so she can like sense things, and that's why she has the spikes first off, because they all have like their own little elements, like extra things I add. So like hers would be spikes, so she can kind of like feel vibrations, and then she can fly. So that's what the whole situation was. So that's what I kind of wanted. Was they all have their own special abilities and their own like elements. Is kind of what the idea is, to make them all still a little bit different. Because you don't want them all the same, right? Gotta give them their own little special doodads that they can use. So this panel, we are out of order, but like I'm fine with it. It's just the way I just do that. But this panel is just her just kind of meeting up at the top of the mountain. Like she just jumped up and she landed, is what that is. So, but yeah, so there's both the boys. So her 2 legs, I did make darker because they are behind her and she's kind of leaning over because of the way she landed. Was the idea. And I also wanted to show that's where the gem was without like pointing it out yet, because I will get explained. But yeah, so that's her gem. Or the fire element. They call it a gem now just because it's on the bracelet, but it is a stone. And then on her left pointer finger, they have rings to kind of symbolize like their relationship status. I don't know. I just always have done that. I don't know where it came from. But their rings are actually a lot more detailed than they look. It's just because they're so small, there's no point in me doing anything with that yet unless I ever get like a close up on their hand, which I don't know when that would happen. But each of their rings has 3 animals, and actually these 3 animals for each of them are actually like, because I have 6 stories, they all show up at least once in every single story. So some of the animals show up multiple times. Like the dragon, the hedgehog, um the those are definitely like number ones, like just their animals in general. And I have one story where it has all 12 of them. But that'll be like later on when I show that one. So, but they all have like animals like relating to them, or at least what to me like they would relate to. So, but Arlathias would have the hedgehog, dragon, and a stegosaurus. One because Stego is my favorite dinosaur, and he's like a prehistoric hedgehog because he has plates and a spike tail. Makes sense. Kanan's has a greyhound, a velociraptor, and a bird because to me they're fast, agile, right? Um, Myra is a bat, an Enfield, and a Hypsilophodon because to me, you know, quick. Kind of to me, I don't know how true this is with the foxes, but I feel like they're nighttime creatures, so it makes sense for them to kind of like be nimble, quick. They can kind of sense things in the dark, see in the dark, you know, like how a bat can. So that's what I did with those. And then Celestin's was kind of more interesting with what his fantasy animal, because I have like mythological creatures. So his is a cat, a pterodactyl, and then a peregrine, the deer bird, if that's how you pronounce it. I don't know how you pronounce it. That's what his animals are. But again, they will pop up later on whenever I get to that point. But I'm actually doing some like off camera art of all 12 of them because I just want to. So eventually we'll probably show those. I don't know yet. But that's what there has on their rings. So I try to like make it start doing a little bit of detail, but again, that's not something that we'll necessarily see, but that's what that's on the rings. So I just colored the boys in, but now we're starting to color her in. Because yes, that means we're getting close to the end of this. But I think it kind of made sense to do her legs darker just so it pushes her hand forward and again, just to kind of start showing that's where the gem went. And because it is red on green, it is very apparent. But essentially, whenever she gets the stones, they kind of turn into this bracelet. And they become gems on her that she can just carry around with them. For a reason. And they're just more accessible and easily portable than her carrying them around. Because they're kind of dangerous. And we don't want the bad guys to get them. Even though that's what they're after. So it just kind of made sense to make the back part of her darker to push it forward. Which is what I wanted. But yes, it is very tiny. But I don't need no big ass bracelet on her. So that would not make sense. And yeah, her hand's a little weird looking, but again, this is stuff I don't normally do, so it's like I'm having to learn as I go, which is my fault, but I don't do studies, I don't like to. I just kind of want to just draw and move on, because I'm already slow as it is, so it's like if I have to do studies, it makes me even slower. Especially when I'm actually like wanting to work on something, and I'm like, no. I'm like, we'll figure it out as we go, which I don't have a problem with. Like, it's part of the experience, right? That's just what it is. And I like my style. I like how it looks. I think it kind of does represent me very well, so I'm fine. And again, I will get the poses book, which I think will help a little bit to give me more idea of what stuff's supposed to look like. So it doesn't look nearly as bad. But that's only for comic usage. Other than that, I won't really be using it that much because there is not really any need. Because the animal stuff, I literally just come up with from my imagination, and I just kind of make it the way I want to, and I just mess around with it. But yes, every time I do something new, I learn something a little bit more. So, and overall, I don't think the hand's terrible for me just like trying to do it. Because I think at quick glance, like it actually looks fine. I think they all look fine. Now, obviously there's a lot of, mistakes and stuff, but that's okay. Because if there weren't mistakes, it would not be very as interesting. Because the mistakes do make it interesting. Bob Ross, happy little accidents. That's what we have here. And yes, it's also just me being able to learn and kind of just do it on my own. So. But the shading on here was interesting because I was trying to figure it out. I was like, okay, where's the shading going to be at? If the sun's more pointed at them now. So that was kind of interesting. Because again, like, I still want to make sure there's dimension. I don't want it flat. Like, I gotta add something in here. So I'm trying to figure out where stuff would probably be, like, crunched up. Like, her glove, like, sure, the hand would be flat if it was doing that position, but the glove would be a little scrunched up, I think. So it kind of makes sense to have a little bit of shadow right there. And then her fingers, I was like, well, most of it would probably be in shadow if they're a little scrunched up themselves. And just because of, like, where the knuckles are and stuff. So it kind of makes sense to have those a little more highlighted. But as I have said before, yes, I do use pure black. No, I don't care. Because what I do is I have purple for the highlight. Then I add gray as like a in-between color. And then I use black to finish it off. So she's still black, but it gives it a little more dimension when I especially blend them together. Because it makes it look better, because I don't want to just straight black. Like, I want to add a little bit of something, but I always do that. Because I didn't do that before, because before I would just do, like, black and purple, and I started adding the gray in there, and I'm like, it looks so much better when I add that gray. Which is what I'm doing here. So it's still like a gray on the darker side, but when it blends it out with everything, it looks really nice. So I'm like, I kind of like doing that, because I think it makes it look a little better. So I can still use black. Because if we weren't allowed to use black, why did they make black? If they didn't want us to use black, they wouldn't have made it, and they would just make us use, indigo and purple or whatever it is that people use. So, I'm like, yep, black it is. But I just like to use it for shading too. But yeah, overall, I think just having that black in there, like the way I do it, just makes it look a heck of a lot better. So, because it just adds a little bit more So now this panel is actually the second one. So this is her using the elements now, like more of them. So this is her using air to push herself up to meet everybody else at the top of the mountain is what this one is. So I'm trying to like still like figure out, okay, what do I actually do with the elements? So to me it makes sense for them to like have, be glowing when they use them. So that's what I have here, is that the gray is bouncing off of her in areas to show she is moving. So that makes sense to me. So, and it's good that I can do this too, because it's also good practice, just to kind of start seeing how things go. Because I don't do lighting a whole bunch, but it's like now I am trying to like do a little more, especially in the comics. I'm gonna have to, because it's like I gotta have more of those. And any coloring pages I do, I'm like doing a little bit more than I normally would, because it's good to experiment. I haven't really branched out on colors yet, because I'm like nervous about those. But every now and then I probably will, depending on what I do. Just to kind of do a little more and learn more. So we're getting there. Slow but surely. We're making some type of progress. We're doing a little more experimentation just to make things a little more interesting so I can kind of expand my skill set. Getting a little out of my comfort zone, which is okay. But here is the end. So this is what the whole page as a whole looks like. So again, I think it looks pretty good. I don't think it looks that bad. Like overall, I'm really happy with it. So yeah, so here's her going up, using the element to push herself off, her landing, and then them talking. Yeah, I went and just kind of zoomed in a little speech bubble so you can kind of read them a little easier. But yeah, so there's all four, my season's readings all together. Yay! Hope you guys like it. Let me know if you do. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!